So love, we all like it. We think. And we all recognize it and know it. But also, if you take something like the wind, the sound of the wind blowing over the planet. Also this we all feel, we recognize and know. We all know the wind. It's like home. But how do we know the wind is there? How can we be totally and absolutely sure that the wind is there? How do we know and recognize the wind? It doesn't matter if it's a very, very light breeze or a raging gale. Still, we have an ability to know that the wind is here, that there is wind. So how is that? It's a question.
6 o'clock news. Through our senses.
Touching the skin.
Where it touches the skin. So, when the wind touches the skin, and the skin is very hot, how does the wind feel?
Cold.
Yeah. When the skin is naked, it's different from when we have sweater and a raincoat. So these feelings of the wind are totally an effect of the form that we have, how we're dressed, the temperature we are at that moment, how much we can open the sensitivity to the wind. And it's many, 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 many impressions of the wind through which we recognize wind, but it's not the wind. The feeling of the wind on the skin is not the wind, it's the feeling of the wind on the skin.
Yeah.
If the body wasn't there, the same wind wouldn't create the feeling of the wind on the skin. When we listen to the wind, it becomes even more refined, because then there's a kind of music, like with wind chimes. So the the sound of the wind in the trees is quite different from the sound of the wind in the chimney. So when we're listening to the wind, are we listening to the wind, or are we listening to the form of the leaves or of the chimney in how it's responding to the wind? And still we know it's the wind. There's something in the gaps, in the tiny spaces of the sound, where we know this is the wind. So many different sounds, so many different impressions, so many different feelings possible, infinite amount of impressions and feelings possible just from a simple thing, the wind. And we don't tend to think normally, often, that when the wind blows, it blows only for us. It's our private wind. Also, although we might say it, we don't tend to think that one wind is separate from another wind. That the wind in China is ultimately separate from the wind in Amsterdam. Or the wind in space, in outer space. And it's interesting, what is wind if there's not any physical object there at all? Because it's still there, it doesn't disappear, it's not created by the physical object being there. It's still wind in space, in empty space. And it's still moving, but it doesn't seem to be moving, it seems to be perfectly still. Because there's no physical things there, creating effects. So what we think is love, what we know as love by the impressions it has on our senses, also our internal senses, is not the source of love, it's not the pure love, it's the effect of love. This makes a lot of sense, because the feeling of love, even when it's attached to an object, you love your dog. But the feeling of love isn't always feeling that much like love, is it? Sometimes if the dog is in danger, it's love at work, but we run to save it, and we will hold back the car with our strength if we need to, and this is pure action. It's not looking like love anymore, but it's love. The source is love, the effect of love. And where the beloved tends to get closed out is where we identify with a certain set of impressions of this is love. We put this condition. It has to be this warm feeling of opening and safety, and this is how it has to be for it to be love. So these are conditions on love. based on memory of experience of what it was before. So once I met the beloved and I felt this opening and this relaxation and this oneness and this belonging. So it has to be like that next time. So I start to look for that effect. I'm looking for the cause by going for the effect. And holding the effect. Holding it. So this is love. This warm feeling. I want the warm feeling. So I'm already chasing a feeling. I'm not opening to love anymore. I'm chasing after a physical sensation, actually. Or after a memory. If our body was a house and we were wanting to welcome in the beloved, which is not built of the same stuff of the house, but is more like the wind, more subtle. We need to create the space on all sides for the beloved to come in, to open the windows, to open the doors. To stand away from the door so that he can enter. And if when he's in the house we think we can shut the windows and lock the door and keep him there, like the wind, it dies down. So what's beyond perception? What's beyond these sensations? It's tricky because this is what we can't sense. What's behind the impressions of the wind on the face, the sound of the wind, the taste of the wind. These are all impressions. They're like signposts into a space which we can't control anymore. We can't identify. Maybe the only way we can come to this space is to just dive completely beyond even our consciousness. Which, funnily enough, means just really being for real. Let it go. Even the kind of sense of consciousness, let it go. Like going to sleep, like dying, like surrendering to anesthetic. Just dive. Let it. Let yourself be taken. And then, of course, you don't, like every night when we go to sleep, we don't know where we've been at the depth of sleep. But when we come back, and there's always this rhythm, like a dolphin, diving and coming back, and diving and coming back. So when we get back, we can notice and allow the impressions that are left. The sounds, the impressions of that space we dived into, so we know it by the impressions. And we can allow it more by not getting stuck with the impressions. I feel good, I want to stay feeling good. I also letting the impressions arise and vanish, and arise again and vanish. This is the quickening. Many will say that you cannot know the unconscious, the non-conscious, that the non-conscious doesn't exist, but we know it intimately by its effects, by the effect of surrender, by the effect of prayer, by the effect of opening out completely for whatever is. It's the footsteps of the beloved. It kind of turns the world a little upside down, because in a way we are an effect of love. Everything we are is an effect. Everything in the physical is like an effect of love, which is not separate from love, it's part of, but it's an entry point to the more subtle, the more subtle. We are also effects of each other, creations of each other, which is why we get so caught in social fears in a way. And the beloved also has a lot of peace in it. And this is also the differentiation in a way of love and peace, is also effect. So if there's a lot of stress and a lot of busyness in the mind and a lot of unrest and discomfort on a certain layer, the effect will be peace, the feelings we know as peacefulness. If there's a lot of contraction in the heart and a lot of closure and pain, the relaxation of this, the effect will be felt as love.
Could you explain that?
It's like we're a wind chime, and so the same wind blows.
Yeah.
And it blows and it makes a certain series of sounds and effects according to where it's blowing.
Yeah.
So our form is determining the effect. So peace, for example, is also the beloved.
Okay.
But it's the effect of the beloved coming through a form where the effect is a deep relaxation, a deep sense of oneness, a deep sense of peace, like the mental area.
And where comes stress into that?
When there is a lot of stress,
Yeah.
and the stress is released
Okay.
into
understand.
the unknown and the unperceivable, and
Okay.
then the effect is peace.
Yes, thanks. Yes.
It's not separate from the beloved. Just from where we sit, it seems to be. There's peace and there's love.
Could we say that stress is then a sort of a distortion of peace, or another form of it?
Frozen
Yes.
peace. Or frozen beloved.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks.
Can you repeat that, please? Her question and your answer?
Her question was if you could say that stress is a distortion or another form of peace. A contraction.
And grief is frozen as well.
In its purity, grief is the most natural thing in the
Yes.
world.
Yes.
In its process, there are stages of form transformation, of freezing and releasing and freezing and releasing, way beyond the physical.
But is there a connection with the beloved?
Absolutely. You will find the ones, we will find the ones we've lost in the heart of the beloved.
say that we are in space and it's totally dark. Does this mean that there is no light?
No.
It only means that there is not an object reflecting the light which is there. We are not able to see light if it's not reflected. Either inside our eyes or on an object and then inside our eyes, but we only see the reflections of light. This is how we are built. So yesterday, Georgi brought forward already that if you really look how the nervous system is working, is not even that we see the light, but we feel the light. The nervous system is only able to feel in the end. It feels color, it feels light. And this is beautiful because when you kind of deepen yourself and open up more, you can feel the atmosphere of the color as the eye is feeling the atmosphere of the color. It comes together. We feel sound. There's this little hair in the inner ear, and this hair is touched, and we feel the touch of a certain vibration. And our brain is translating this to sound. It's an effect. It's an effect of vibration bumping up towards something. But can we hear the vibration? What we hear is the effect of the vibration. And this is important to understand. I kind of basically go back to the talk of Georgi, but it's really important to understand that the only thing when you talk about love or light or sound, but also when you talk about love, we only are aware of the reflections of love. That means that we find love in another person, but that's a reflection, an effect of love. It's only a reflection. It's not what love is in its purest form. So the reflection of love in Grietje is different as the reflection of love in Rolf. And we feel the difference. We are able to distinguish the difference of the reflection of love in Grietje and the reflections of love in Rolf. And when you think about this, this is incredibly rich. The reflection of love in a flower is a different experience again. And even the reflection of love in a sunflower or the reflection of love in a lily is different. A different quality is coming forward. So when you look beyond all the pipi-kaki, all the different layers of a person, all the kind of makeup, so how do we recognize a person? How do we recognize a person in the depth? How do we know a person?
feeling of love?
Through the face, we recognize the face. Through the voice, we recognize the voice.
The smell?
Through the body, through the smell.
Energy?
Behavior sometimes.
Yeah.
But when you look behind all this form is reflecting something. The face is reflecting something. The face of a person is reflecting something. What's behind that? What is defining one twin identical from another twin? How do we know the difference? How do we know this is Piet and this is Jan?
Because they have a different sound, I think.
They have a different sound. They have a different taste. They have a different smell. They have a different face. Although it looks a lot like each other. They have a different face. They have a different expression. They are expressing a different quality. In the depth we recognize a person on the quality of the person which is hidden in a way. Like each person has a certain atmosphere, a unique quality, a unique atmosphere he's bringing. Even if you're family. And this feeling, either we are very much attracted to it, or we say, okay, this is not really such a good blend. There is differences there. And that's absolutely okay. But each person has a certain quality he brings, and this quality, this is in the depth how we recognize the person. This is the feeling of the person. And I'm not talking about the feeling in a way, this is the emotion, or this is the love, but it's connected with the reflection, the unique reflection of love in this person. This is the quality. It's like the diamond which is inside and the light falls on it. And this light is reflected in a unique way. And when we connect it with this, when we feel the person like this, automatically there's an atmosphere of love around it. It's no effort. There is a recognition of the unique quality of a person, and the only way we can recognize this is through the heart. We don't recognize it when we are very much in our minds. In our minds, we will describe features. We will describe, he has a nose, he has hair, also in his ears. And then we all know who it is. It's really, really difficult to, in a way, describe this quality in words. Maybe in a poem you can describe it, in a song, in music. It's also the pure beauty of a person. The unique identity. But again, what we see is nothing else as one leaf of the tree which is moving in the wind. It's the effect of something which is a continuum between all the leaves, which we don't see. We are not able to see. The wind itself, when we move with the wind, is no wind. If there is a wind and you start to run as fast as the wind, there is no wind. It doesn't mean that there is no wind, but there is nothing which is reflecting the wind. Like when you, in darkness, and there's nothing to reflect the light, doesn't mean there is no light. There is nothing to reflect the light. So, in these courses, we have worked a lot with darkness. Meditate on darkness, make yourself dark within, make yourself dark without. And what does the darkness do? Basically, what it helps us to do is to kind of let go of a lot of areas where we kind of are reflecting the light. So that the purity of light in the deepest form, the diamond which is inside us, can come forward more strongly. Nothing reflects light so strong as ego. This is important to understand. That's why we're so impressed by ego of people, because it looks so tremendous. It's containing a lot of light. It's impressive. It seems to be full of quality. But it's skin deep. It's not the quality of the person. It's pretense. But in this pretense is a reflection of light, of quality. You recognize what I'm talking about? If you look through the eyes of a child and you see this big adult standing with a lot of ego, a lot of pretense, this seems so powerful. There is such a strength in it. And at the same time, as a child, we also see it's basically bullshit. It's confusing. So it's important to understand that if we talk about love, that love, as we cannot see it, love as it moves as the wind or as the light, is unconditional. Everything it touches, it has an effect on it. And the effect sometimes is bent in a way like light is bending through water, that it doesn't feel like love anymore. If we really look deeply to the nerve system, deeply into it, what I said, we can only feel color. And we can distinguish different colors, many different tints of colors, depending on how sensitive our eyes are. An artist is much more trained to see colors as somebody who is not kind of that interested in colors. So an artist's eyes sees much more effects of light. But basically we feel the reflection of the light. We feel the effect of the light in many different nuances. And when we look to the ability to feel, what's there? What's behind it? What's behind this light? What's there? What do we really feel? When you look to feeling in itself, what do you really feel? What is feeling? What's the feeling factor? What happens the moment we open ourselves up to feel? There is this background of this quality. The background of the effect of love on you. We can only feel when we open up as a background, like a mirror to love. And all the different feelings are like little imprints in this mirror of love. You recognize this? If the heart is closed and there is not any connection with love, and we are in deep depression, there is very little we can feel. And there is no love. There is a universe with no love. Only the memory of love.
And the opposite of it? Or it's too much? It's coming in?
That is a very good question. Too much, overwhelming.
Yeah. Fear.
Fear comes forward.
Fear because there's a threat that the form will collapse. That's the birth of, that's the birth of fear.
That's fine.
And it's really interesting
Let
to...
it go.
It's really interesting what form will collapse. When is it too much?
The nervous system.
Te veel liefde? I do not understand the question.
When you get too much impressions at the same
Okay.
time.
Thanks.
I had the feeling you become love and you lose your ego or you lose yourself. Kan de vraag herhaald worden?
Yeah, I give an answer anyhow. Again, and then or Georgi gives an answer. But it's really important, and Georgi brought this forward already before, like what we do is we hold on to the reflection, the effects of love, as this is the truth, this is how it is, this is very pleasant, this is how it should stay. It's like we hear a tone, and this tone is so pleasant that we want to keep the tone. This is a reality. This is appreciated. This is recognized. This is seen. This is what I know. So when things get overwhelming in a way, it's not too much for the nerve system. What's too much for the nerve system is the stress in trying to frame it within the known parameters. To let go of the hooks. You know, if you have a ship which is with its sails on its anchor, and the wind blows very, very hard, more and more strength or power or pull will be on the anchor and on the chain of the anchor. Until a point where the chain of the anchor could break. And this is giving stress, this is giving strain, because we try to hold on to something. We try to hold on especially to the form we think we are. And this is basically when we talk about surrendering to the beloved. It's surrendering to the beloved is not kind of jump into something, but letting go of the hooks. Trust that where the wind blows you is exactly where you need to be. Nothing gets lost. Nothing gets changed.
This isn't just a conscious act of doing.
No.
It's also finding different ways to deal with the automatic reactions in the body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is automatic reactions in the body, and most of the automatic reactions in the body are formed by experiences we went through in life. Experiences of fright. Experiences of overload. It's important to understand that when we talk about love and the ability to just let love move through you, every baby is doing this. It's got the same nerve system as we have. It's nothing more and it's nothing less. When you look at the baby, you know, it's pure light, pure love, unconditional moving through it and reflecting in its diamond, in its core. This is not, the nerve system of a baby is less developed as our nerve system. The nerve system of a baby can handle it. So it's not something, you know, to say, okay, this is not possible.
It can be very overwhelming. I once, after have been in war areas, saw a sunset.
Yeah.
And it was so overwhelming that I hardly could stand seeing it. But that brought me to a feeling of being one of it.
Yeah. A feeling of unity, of oneness.
So overwhelming can be good.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you can surrender to it, like the sail ship and the wind of the beloved will bring you home. And being home is being part of everything. There is no difference between you and the sunset. This is exactly the experiences we're talking about. When it's totally dark and there's one sunset, you know, it's more easy. Kind of become one with the reflection of light. But it's a reflection. And then the art is not to hold on to only this experience, because the next reflection is the next moment, and the next reflection is the next moment, and the next reflection is the next moment, and the next reflection is the next moment. Life is a train of reflections of the beloved, inside ourselves, outside ourselves.
Het kan eigenlijk niet te veel zijn. Soms voelt het al, dat herken ik wel. Van dat je het gevoel alsof je... Ik was van de zomer ook in de natuur en dan soms heb ik bijna op vakantie heb ik bijna de neiging om weg te kijken, want het heeft zo'n impact dan alsof je bijna schudt en trilt van binnen. Zo mooi eigenlijk. Dat ik echt tegen mezelf soms moet zeggen, laat het me toe. Maar soms voelt het zo overweldigend dat je denkt van...
Are you able to contain it? This, no?
But who are you?
You are not able to contain this. Your physical body is able to contain this. But the difficulty is that, you know, when it comes in like this and it starts to shake, what's happening is that it goes, if you let it go, beyond the borders of the you.
Ja. Je wordt gewoon... Ja, je wordt alles of zo.
Exactly. So you is disappearing. And what is you? The separate I. The separate I is not able to contain unity. And this is the fear. To let go of that in that moment of the separate I. That's too much. The separate I, this little part we believe we are, which is nothing else as basically, you know, the separate I is not what we are. The separate I starts to dissolve. There is not a separate I. That doesn't mean that there is not a unique reflection of love or the beloved. What we are, this doesn't disappear. What disappears in that moment is the separate I. And it will pop up when you need it again. But this is the only thing, what it is not destroyed, it doesn't die, but it just kind of dissolves, because really it's not important. It's really not important at all. in the expansion which is possible beyond the separate I, into unity.
Is then the fear that you don't pop up again?
It's a kind of dying. It's dying. It's dying at that moment of. What dies in that moment is quite beautiful in a way. What dies in that moment is narcissism, egocentrism, only being able to see yourself and only be able to see through one perspective. Being totally focused on yourself, this is the I. We're carrying the separate I. It's all about me. And what comes back in for this, it's all about me, what comes back in this, which is a childish I in a way, is belonging. Being part of. The overwhelming beauty of life. So the separate I is keeping us inside. Is keeping us in a way totally blocked in a very, very limited perception.
So it's normal that you can feel the fear of dying.
The separate I is fearful of dying. But it just dissolves for a short moment.
Is ego part of separate I, or are they the same?
The ego and the separate I are very close coming together, basically. If you talk about the separate I, you talk about the ego.
Okay.
I think, don't you?
Can.
You can.
You can.
Yeah.
Okay, other story.
Yeah. It's interesting how when we talk now for a while about love being not the effects of, not the impressions, not the sounds, but a deeper source, that the questions which come forward is a kind of panic, can I contain the effects?
Yeah.
So maybe it's helpful to, beyond all the differentiation and everything, when I look at Eva, at the heart of it, the beloved is looking back directly.
Yeah.
It's the same me. It's the same one. It's the beloved which is looking at itself through all the effects. This is unity. So this space, the imperceivable space, which is creating these effects, isn't nervous, isn't excited, it's no fireworks, it's deeply, deeply, deeply home. It's peaceful. In its first effects, because you can't really give words to it. But it's a recognition beyond recognition. It's utterly one, the same. And there's no difference between me and another individual. This is the end of the separate I. It doesn't mean the forms are not different. There's no difference. This is the I am you and you are me. There's no panic in relating here. We're doing it all the time. It's really a very superficial fantasy that we are separate. Or that somehow at the core of the core of the core of the core of things, okay, out here we're all one, but at the core of things we're separate. It's totally illogical.
Mm-hmm.
And not only that, separate from life, separate from love, separate from the beloved, separate, it spirals. It seems other because we can't quite believe that we are that. That I am the beloved and the beloved is me. Or we are the beloved and the beloved is we. We can't quite believe it even though we take it absolutely for granted as well in living. How could we live otherwise? There's nothing frightening about this place. There's nothing threatened. And it's not empty either. We could go on and on with words trying to describe that which don't describe it at all.
Are they also reflections of the love? And if you go deep into fear of anger,
love can be very, very, very scary in its effect.
It is not a reflection of love, but it's scary.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, once when I was 18, I was reading a fundamentalist Christian book, and it kept saying, call on Jesus, just call and he will come. And I'd been in this Vedic school of meditation, which was very much with Sanskrit and Om, and this was kind of new to me, and there wasn't much reading material in my parents' house. And so I was reading this. And so as I fell asleep, as rather than doing the kind of mantra meditation, I kind of started calling on Jesus, really calling. Come. And then began to glide into the first layers of sleep, calling all the time, Jesus, come to me, Jesus, come to me. And then suddenly I was utterly, totally wide awake with this blazing light of total, intense love, like it filled the whole room. I jumped up, totally freaked out, terrified. Turned on all the lights and turned them off again and turned them on again and turned them off again. Went to the bathroom and looked at myself in the mirror, the whole, like this. That's one of the examples of the fear of love, of the effect of love, of a particular vibration of love coming, and it's as if form will dissolve. And that's totally okay, because big chunks fall off of what's not needed. It's very purifying. It's like one of those messages from another dimension. And it has an enormous effect for a lifetime, that kind of experience. But the more we are able to be that which is behind love, that which is the source of love, that which is before the effect and before any differentiation, the more things are really, really easy to pass through. The more empty we are, the more full we become in a way.
My question was more from, is going through fear also a way to come to the beloved?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There is
fear
is a form of love. Rage is a form of love. You know, there is behind anger is care. We don't get angry if we don't care. So basically anger is a form of care.
And there's really, really no hierarchy in it. At any stage we can find ourselves in fear again. Why? Because we are at the edge again of something new, of another expansion. And it's all new. So there is no kind of, okay, I'm done with fear, and fear is the only change that happens with fear is it begins to look more like excitement and opportunity. That's the mind recognizing that actually it's worthwhile. More like the roller coaster ride, which we really enjoy, if we enjoy that kind of horror, than a suffering. Yeah. And it's very close to bliss. Fear, in the sense that when something's about to explode, you're holding a form, it gets tighter and tighter and tighter, it's about to pop. This is very, very fearful, those last stages of holding a form, holding a structure, holding a mental form. But in the popping, that last tinkle, it's bliss.
Liberation.